He took 8 blades for an alien child, then woke to find elite warriors at his bed. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The blood pooled around Tyler Grant's boots as he stood, swaying but unmoving, between the trembling child and the 8 armed attackers. The alien marketplace had descended into chaos around them, but in this moment, all that existed was the cold calculation of survival and the unexpected choice of a human janitor who had never planned to be a hero. The day had begun like any other aboard the United Earth diplomatic vessel Harmony. Tyler rolled out of his bunk at 0500 hours, just as he had every day for the past 3 years. The low hum of the ship's engines was a constant companion as he slipped into his gray maintenance uniform. The patch on his shoulder read, Maintenance Specialist, but everyone, including Tyler himself, knew that was just a fancy term for janitor. He glanced at the small digital photo frame beside his bed, the only personal item he allowed himself in the cramped quarters. It displayed a rotating set of images, his parents standing in front of their small farm in Nebraska, his sister on her college graduation day, and Tyler himself in his failed attempt at military service. The rejection from the Earth Defense Force still stung, even 5 years later. A minor heart arrhythmia, barely noticeable in everyday life, had been enough to disqualify him from service. So here he was, cleaning toilets and scrubbing floors on a diplomatic vessel, instead of defending Earth like he'd always dreamed. The Harmony was currently docked at Nexus Station, one of the largest interspecies trading hubs in the Orion Arm. It was a routine diplomatic mission. Earth was still relatively new to the galactic community, having only achieved faster-than-light travel 15 years ago. Humanity was eager to forge alliances and trade partnerships, and the Harmony served as a roaming embassy of sorts. Tyler grabbed his toolkit and headed to the mess hall. The morning crowd had just finished breakfast, which meant he had about 30 minutes to clean before the administrative staff came in for their coffee. He nodded to the few crew members he passed in the hallway. Most didn't acknowledge him. He was practically invisible, just part of the background machinery that kept the ship running. "Morning, Tyler," called a friendly voice. Dr. Sarah Morgan, the ship's xenobiologist, was one of the few people who consistently acknowledged his existence. "Early start again." "Same as always, Doc," Tyler replied with a small smile. "Someone's got to keep this place from looking like a college dorm." Sarah laughed. "Well, some of the diplomatic corps could use the reminder. I swear, the Centaurian delegation leaves more shed scales in the conference room than my cat leaves fur on my couch." "Tell me about it," Tyler said, already mentally preparing for the special vacuum attachment he'd need to use later. "Any exciting research today?" "Actually, yes," Sarah's eyes lit up. "We're heading down to the station marketplace. There's a Valerian botanist who claims to have crossbred Terran orchids with Proximan fire lilies. I've got to see it to believe it." Tyler nodded, though he understood little of the scientific implications. "Sounds interesting. Be careful down there, though. I heard some of the security guys talking about increased tensions between the Draxians and Nelvari. Some trade dispute." "Always the worrier," Sarah said with a gentle smile. "I'll be fine. It's a public marketplace with station security everywhere." "Right, of course," Tyler said, suddenly feeling foolish for his concern. "Enjoy your flower shopping." As Sarah walked away, Commander Blake Turner, the ship's security chief, entered the mess hall. He grabbed a coffee and approached Tyler. "Grant," he said with a curt nod. "Commander," Tyler responded, continuing to wipe down tables. "You heard about the situation with the Draxians?" Tyler kept his eyes on his work. "Just rumors, sir." Blake lowered his voice. "Well, those rumors aren't unfounded. Intelligence suggests there might be some Draxian extremists unhappy about the new trade agreement with Earth. Nothing concrete, but keep your eyes open if you go to the station today." Tyler looked up, surprised that the commander was sharing this information with him. "Me, sir." Blake shrugged. "You maintenance guys are everywhere, but noticed by no one. Perfect observers. Besides, you're ex-military, right?" Tyler felt his face flush. "Hardly, sir. Failed the medical exam. Still had the training, though," Blake said. "Just keep your eyes open. That's all I'm asking." With that, the commander walked away, leaving Tyler to wonder why he'd been singled out. He finished cleaning the mess hall and moved on to his other duties, but Blake's words kept playing in his mind. After completing his morning tasks, Tyler checked the schedule and saw he had a few hours free. He decided to head to the station, not because of Blake's request, but because he needed to pick up some specialized cleaning solvent for the Arcturian ambassador's quarters. At least, that's what he told himself. Nexus Station was a massive structure, home to over 50,000 permanent residents and visited by hundreds of thousands more each standard month. The central marketplace was its heart, a sprawling, multi-level bazaar where species from across the known galaxy came to trade goods, services, and information. Tyler stepped off the transport tube and into the controlled chaos of the marketplace. The air was thick with the mingled scents of exotic foods, perfumes, and the natural odors of dozens of different species. Voices in countless languages created a background hum punctuated by the occasional shout of a vendor hawking their wares. He weaved through the crowd, careful to avoid bumping into the more physically sensitive species. A group of tall, willowy Illuri moved past, their translucent skin shimmering under the market lights. Near a food stall, a pair of bulky Terraxian merchants haggled with a human trader over the price of rare earth spices. Tyler kept his head down, following the path to the maintenance supply shop where he could purchase the cleaning solvent. As he rounded a corner, he caught sight of Dr. Morgan examining what appeared to be glowing plants at a botanical stall. She was engrossed in conversation with a slender, lavender-skinned alien, presumably the Valerian botanist she'd mentioned. Tyler decided not to interrupt and continued on his way. The maintenance shop was tucked away in a less trafficked section of the marketplace. Tyler quickly found what he needed and completed his purchase. As he turned to leave, a commotion from the main thoroughfare caught his attention. Raised voices, angry ones, echoed through the corridor. His curiosity piqued. Tyler moved toward the sound. A small crowd had gathered around what appeared to be an argument between a Draxian merchant and a station security officer. The Draxian scales had darkened to a deep crimson, a sign of agitation in their species, and the security officer's hand hovered near his stunner. "This is the third time this week," the officer was saying. "You can't block the walkway with your merchandise." "Other vendors do the same," the Draxian hissed, multiple rows of teeth visible as he spoke. "You target me because I am Draxian. Since your humans signed their treaty, you all think you can push us around." The officer sighed, clearly tired of the conversation. "Just move your cart back to the designated area, Krez." The Draxian reluctantly complied, muttering what Tyler assumed were curses in his native language. The crowd began to disperse, but Tyler noticed a group of Draxians watching from a nearby alcove. They were speaking quietly among themselves, occasionally glancing toward the security officer. Tyler remembered Blake's warning and felt a chill run down his spine. Maybe the commander's concerns weren't unfounded after all. He debated whether to report what he'd seen, but ultimately decided it was nothing concrete enough to warrant attention. Just some disgruntled merchants, most likely. He began making his way back toward the transport tube that would return him to the Harmony. As he passed a row of food stalls, a small figure darted out from between two vendors and collided with him. Tyler stumbled backward but quickly regained his balance. Looking down, he found himself face to face with a Nelvari child. The Nelvari were one of the newer species to join the galactic community, having made first contact just a few years before humans. They resembled Earth felines in some ways, covered in short, velvety fur with pointed ears and large, expressive eyes. This child couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 years old by human standards, with pale blue fur and striking amber eyes currently wide with fear. "Whoa there, little one," Tyler said gently. "Where are you off to in such a hurry?" The child spoke rapidly in the Nelvari language, which Tyler's universal translator struggled to interpret. He caught only fragments. "Mother, lost, scared." Tyler knelt down to the child's level. "You're lost? Looking for your mother?" The child nodded vigorously. Tyler glanced around, looking for any adult Nelvari who might be searching for a missing child. The marketplace was crowded, but he didn't see anyone who seemed to be in distress. "My name's Tyler," he said, pointing to himself. "Can you tell me your name?" "Mira," the child replied after a moment's hesitation. "My mother is Tila. We were shopping, and then there were loud voices. People running. I got scared and ran too, but now I cannot find her." Tyler nodded sympathetically. Well, Mira, let's find your mom together, okay? She must be very worried about you. The child seemed to relax slightly at his calm demeanor. Tyler stood and offered his hand, which Mira took after only a brief hesitation. Her small paw-like hand felt warm in his. Where did you last see your mother? Tyler asked as they began walking. Mira pointed toward the central plaza of the marketplace. By the fountain. We were looking at jewelry. Tyler nodded and led the way. The central plaza was one of the busiest areas of the marketplace, with the fountain serving as a common meeting point for shoppers. As they approached, Tyler scanned the crowd for any sign of an adult Nelvari who might be Myra's mother. The plaza was more crowded than usual, and Tyler noticed an unusual number of station security officers patrolling the area. He kept a firm but gentle grip on Myra's hand, not wanting to lose her in the throng of shoppers. Do you see your mother anywhere? He asked. Mira stood on her tiptoes, her ears swiveling as she looked. No, she said, her voice trembling slightly. But that is where we were. She pointed to a jewelry stall near the fountain. They made their way to the stall, where a Terran vendor was displaying handcrafted pieces. The woman looked up as they approached. Excuse me, Tyler said. This child is looking for her mother. A Nelvari named Tila. They were at your stall earlier. Have you seen her? The vendor's expression softened as she looked at Mira. Yes, they were here about 30 minutes ago. The mother seemed concerned about something and left in a hurry. That way. She pointed toward one of the corridors leading off the plaza. She may have gone to the security office. There's been some commotion today. Tyler thanked her and led Mira in the direction the vendor had indicated. The corridor was less crowded than the plaza, lined with smaller shops selling specialty goods. About halfway down, a small gathering of people stood outside what appeared to be a security substation. As they approached, Tyler saw an adult Nelvari female speaking animatedly with a security officer. Mira, the Nelvari cried out upon seeing them. Oh, thank the ancestors. Mother. Mira released Tyler's hand and ran to her mother, who swept her up in a tight embrace. Tyler approached more slowly, relieved to have successfully reunited the pair. The mother looked up at him, her amber eyes, so like her daughter's, filled with gratitude. You found her, she said. Thank you, human. I was so worried. There have been threats, and when I couldn't find her. It was no trouble, Tyler assured her. I'm just glad she's safe. The security officer, a stocky Centaurian, nodded at Tyler. Good timing. We've had reports of Draxian troublemakers in the market today. Not a good day for a child to be wandering alone. Tyler frowned. Troublemakers? Like the merchant who was arguing about his cart placement. The officer clicked his mandibles, a Centaurian expression of dismissal. Krez? He's always complaining. I'm talking about the extremist faction. They've been spreading anti-alliance propaganda, specifically targeting humans and their close allies, like the Nelvari. The Nelvari mother, Tila, clutched her daughter closer. My mate works in the diplomatic corps. He helped negotiate the Earth Nelvari medical exchange program. We've received messages. Threats. Tyler's concern deepened. This aligned too well with what Commander Blake had mentioned. Maybe you should return to your ship or residence, he suggested. If there's genuine concern for your safety. His words were cut short by a sudden commotion from the direction of the central plaza. Shouts echoed down the corridor, followed by the unmistakable sound of energy weapons discharging. The security officer immediately reached for his communicator. Central, this is Outpost 3. What's happening in the plaza? The response came through clearly enough for Tyler to hear. Draxian extremists. At least 8 of them, armed with blade weapons. They're targeting Alliance species. All available personnel respond. The officer drew his stunner. Stay here, he ordered, before rushing toward the plaza. Tila looked terrified, her fur standing on end. We need to get somewhere safe, she said. Tyler nodded in agreement. The security office, inside. It should be secure. They turned toward the station door, but before they could reach it, a group of marketplace patrons came rushing down the corridor, fleeing from the direction of the plaza. In the confusion, Tyler was separated from Tila and Mira. When the crowd thinned, he spotted them several meters away, pressed against the corridor wall. And approaching them from the plaza entrance were 3 Draxians, their scales a deep crimson, each brandishing what looked like ceremonial blades. Their eyes were fixed on the Nelvari pair. Tyler didn't think, he moved. Years of training kicked in, despite never having served in actual combat. He positioned himself between the Draxians and the Nelvari. "Get inside," he called to Tila. "Now." The Nelvari grabbed her daughter and made for the security office door, but it was locked. The officer had left in such a hurry that he hadn't given them access. The Draxians slowed their approach, seemingly surprised by Tyler's intervention. The leader, a large male with a scarred crest, hissed at him. "Stand aside, human. Our quarrel is not with you. It is now," Tyler replied, widening his stance. He was unarmed, facing 3 opponents with blades. The odds weren't good. "The female's mate is a traitor to galactic independence," the Draxians said. "He and his family must answer for their crimes against sovereign species." Tyler didn't move. "Whatever political grievance you have, threatening a child isn't going to resolve it." The Draxian's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of aggression. "Last warning, human." Behind him, Tyler could hear Mira whimpering and Tila frantically, trying to open the security door. He made his choice. "You'll have to go through me first." The Draxians didn't hesitate. The leader lunged forward, blade extended. Tyler sidestepped, grabbing the Draxian's wrist and using his momentum to throw him off balance. Basic self-defense, taught in the first week of military training. The second Draxian came at him from the side. Tyler ducked under the swing, but wasn't fast enough to avoid a glancing cut across his shoulder. Pain flared, but adrenaline kept him moving. He landed a solid punch to the second Draxian's throat, one of the few vulnerable points on their heavily scaled bodies. The third attacker circled, looking for an opening. The first Draxian had recovered and was approaching again. Tyler backed up, keeping himself between the attackers and the Nelvari. His options were limited. He couldn't keep this up for long, and help wasn't arriving. "Run," he shouted to Tila. "Try to find another security officer." But before Tila could move, 5 more Draxians appeared at the corridor entrance. They were trapped. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. The Draxians attacked as one, blades glinting under the marketplace lights. Tyler fought with everything he had, ducking, blocking, striking when he could. He managed to disarm one attacker, using the fallen blade to fend off the others. But he was outnumbered. One blade caught him across the ribs. Another sliced into his thigh. A third grazed his forearm as he deflected what would have been a fatal thrust to his chest. The pain was overwhelming, but Tyler remained standing, determined to protect the child and her mother for as long as possible. Through sheer force of will, he kept fighting. Every time a blade found its mark, he forced himself to stay upright, to keep moving. The floor beneath him became slick with his blood. His vision began to narrow, darkness creeping in at the edges. In the distance, he heard shouting, reinforcements finally arriving. The Draxians heard it too. The leader made one final, desperate lunge, aiming not for Tyler, but trying to reach around him toward Mira. Tyler turned, taking the blade deep in his back. As he fell to his knees, he saw station security officers flooding the corridor. The Draxians were retreating, pursued by the officers. Tyler collapsed fully to the floor, his strength finally giving out. The last thing he heard was Myra's voice, high and frightened, calling his name. Then darkness claimed him. Tyler wasn't sure if he was dead. The pain had faded, replaced by a floating sensation. Voices drifted around him, speaking in languages he didn't recognize. He tried to open his eyes, but couldn't seem to remember how. Time passed. How much, he couldn't tell. Gradually, sensations returned. The soft hum of medical equipment. The sterile smell of a hospital. The dull, distant ache of healing wounds. With great effort, Tyler finally managed to open his eyes. The ceiling above him was unfamiliar, higher than the ship's medical bay, with an iridescent quality to the paneling. He was definitely not on the Harmony. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it as pain lanced through his torso. A gentle but firm hand pressed him back down. "Please remain still, Tyler Grant. Your wounds are still healing." The voice was melodious, with an accent Tyler didn't recognize. He turned his head slightly to see a Nelvari female in what appeared to be medical attire standing beside his bed. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice rough from disuse. "You are in the Royal Medical Center on Nelver Prime," she replied, checking some readings on a monitor beside his bed. "You were transferred here after initial stabilization on Nexus Station." Your injuries were extensive. Tyler blinked in confusion. Nelver Prime? That's not even in the same system as Nexus Station. How long have I been unconscious? 7 standard days, the medic replied. You were kept in an induced coma to facilitate healing. Your body suffered significant trauma. 7 days. Tyler tried to process this information. He had been brought to the Nelvari homeworld while unconscious? Why would they transport an injured human janitor across star systems? The child, he said suddenly, memories flooding back. Mira and her mother, are they safe? The medic nodded. They are unharmed, thanks to your actions. Tyler relaxed slightly, relieved. Good. That's good. Your ship has been notified of your location and condition. The medic continued. Your captain expressed concern and gratitude. They have extended the Harmony's diplomatic mission to include a stop at Nelver Prime once you are cleared for transport. That's very considerate, Tyler said, though he doubted the captain knew his name before this incident. You should rest now, the medic advised. The royal physician will check on you shortly. Royal physician? That seemed excessive for treating a maintenance worker. But Tyler was too tired to question it further. He closed his eyes and drifted back to sleep. When Tyler next awoke, the room was dimly lit. Night cycle, he presumed. He felt stronger than before, the pain reduced to a dull throb. Testing cautiously, he found he could shift positions slightly without agony. Progress. He became aware that he was not alone. Turning his head, he saw a small figure seated in a chair beside his bed. Mira, the Nelvari child, was curled up, seemingly asleep, her blue fur almost silvery in the low light. Beside her, also sleeping, sat her mother. Tyler was touched that they would visit him, especially at what must be a late hour. He lay still, not wanting to disturb them. As he watched, the door to his room slid open silently, and a tall Nelvari male entered. Unlike Tila and Mira, whose fur was blue, his was a deep gray with silver markings. He wore an elaborate uniform with insignia Tyler didn't recognize. The newcomer noticed that Tyler was awake and approached the bed, moving quietly so as not to wake the sleeping pair. Tyler Grant, he said softly, his voice deep and resonant. It is good to see you conscious. I am Rollin, mate to Tila and father to Mira. Sir, Tyler acknowledged with a slight nod, the most movement he could manage comfortably. Your family is safe. That's what matters. Rollin's ears flicked forward, a sign of interest or surprise, Tyler guessed. You speak as though your actions were trivial, human. They were not. Before Tyler could respond, the door opened again. This time, for Nelvari entered. They wore armor unlike anything Tyler had seen before, sleek, almost liquid in appearance, with subtle lights pulsing beneath the surface. Each carried an advanced-looking weapon at their side. They positioned themselves around the room, standing at attention. Tyler tensed, confused by their presence. Were they expecting trouble? Here, in what appeared to be a secure medical facility. Following the guards came 2 more Nelvari. The first was elderly, with silver fur and an elaborate headdress. The second was middle-aged, wearing what could only be described as royal regalia. Rollin immediately dropped to one knee, head bowed. Your Majesty, he said. My Lord Regent. You honor us with your presence. Tyler's mind reeled. Majesty? Lord Regent? Was he in the presence of Nelvari royalty? He tried to sit up again, feeling it inappropriate to lie prone before such important figures, but pain kept him in place. The older Nelvari, the one Rollin had addressed as Lord Regent, gestured for Rollin to rise. Ambassador Rollin, there is no need for formality at this hour. We have come to see the human who saved your daughter. The younger Nelvari, apparently the monarch, approached Tyler's bedside. By now, Tila and Mira had awakened. Myra's eyes widened at the sight of the royal visitors, and she quickly mimicked her father's posture of respect. Tyler Grant, the monarch said, his voice surprisingly gentle. I am King Ellerin of the Nelvari Confederation. I understand we owe you a great debt. Tyler swallowed hard. Your Majesty, I just did what anyone would do. I was in the right place at the right time. The king's whiskers twitched in what might have been amusement. Diplomat Rollin tells me you were seriously wounded protecting his family. You took 8 blade strikes, yet remained standing until help arrived. This is not what anyone would do, as you claim. The regent stepped forward. You should know, human, that Mira is not just any child. She is the king's niece of the royal bloodline. Ambassador Rollin is the king's brother. Tyler felt suddenly lightheaded, and not just from his injuries. He had intervened to protect a child, any child. The fact that she was apparently Nelvari royalty hadn't entered into his calculation. I didn't know, he said honestly. It wouldn't have mattered if I had. She was a child in danger. That's all I saw. The king exchanged a glance with the regent, something unspoken passing between them. Then he turned back to Tyler. Your actions reflect the highest principles of honor and courage, he said formally. The Nelvari Confederation acknowledges its debt to you, Tyler Grant of Earth. When you are recovered, there will be a formal recognition of your service. Tyler didn't know how to respond. This seemed wildly out of proportion to what he'd done. He was saved from having to reply by Mira, who had slipped away from her mother and now stood beside his bed. Are you feeling better, Tyler? She asked, her voice small but clear. Despite everything, the pain, the confusion, the unexpected royal audience, Tyler found himself smiling at the child. Much better, Mira. Thank you for asking. Mira nodded seriously. I was scared when you fell. There was so much red. Mira, Tila chided gently. Perhaps now is not the time. It's okay, Tyler assured her. I'm tougher than I look, Mira. Humans heal quickly. The king watched this exchange with interest. Indeed, your species' resilience is remarkable. Our physicians were impressed by your body's response to treatment. The regent cleared his throat. Perhaps we should allow Tyler Grant to rest, Your Majesty. There will be time for further discussion when he is stronger. The king nodded in agreement. Of course, Tyler Grant, we will speak again soon. Until then, know that you are under the protection and care of the Nelvari royal house. Whatever you require will be provided. With that, the royal party departed, the guards filing out after them. Rollin turned to his family. We should go as well. It is late, and Mira should be in bed. Tila nodded, but Mira looked reluctant to leave. She approached Tyler's bedside once more. Will you tell me about Earth next time? I have never met a human before you. Tyler smiled again. I'd like that, Mira. Get some rest. The family bid him good night and left. Tyler stared at the ceiling, trying to make sense of the day's events. He had gone from invisible janitor to royal savior in the span of a week. It seemed impossible, yet here he was, in a royal medical facility on a planet he'd never expected to visit. Exhaustion overtook him again, and he drifted off to sleep, wondering what the coming days would bring. Tyler's recovery progressed rapidly over the next few days. The Nelvari medical technology was advanced, accelerating his healing far beyond what would have been possible in a human facility. By the fourth day after regaining consciousness, he was able to sit up without assistance. By the sixth, he could stand and walk short distances. During this time, he received regular visits from Mira and her family. True to his promise, he told the child about Earth, about the vast oceans and towering mountains, about the diverse wildlife and changing seasons. Mira listened with rapt attention, her ears swiveling forward to catch every word. Rollin often joined them, asking thoughtful questions about human culture and governance. Tyler answered as best he could. Though he sometimes fell out of his depth, he was a janitor, not a diplomat or anthropologist. Your knowledge is valuable nonetheless, Rollin assured him after one such conversation. You provide perspective outside the official diplomatic channels. There is authenticity in your observations. On the 10th day after waking, Tyler received a different visitor, Commander Blake Turner from the Harmony. The security chief looked uncomfortable in the ornate Nelvari surroundings, but managed to smile when he saw Tyler sitting up in bed. Grant, he said, approaching the bedside. You're looking better than I expected. Commander, Tyler greeted him. The Nelvari medical tech is something else. Blake nodded, glancing around the room. So I've heard. You've caused quite a stir, you know. The captain's been fielding calls from Earth Central Command ever since news broke about the heroic human who saved Nelvari royalty. Tyler winced. I didn't know she was royalty. That's part of what makes the story so compelling, apparently, Blake said dryly. Regular human maintenance worker risks life to save alien child, unaware she's a princess. The media's having a field day. The notion that his actions were being reported in Earth media was surreal. I'm just a janitor who happened to be in the right place at the right time, Tyler insisted. 8 blade wounds say otherwise, Blake countered. I've reviewed the security footage, Grant. What you did, it was extraordinary. Tyler looked away, uncomfortable with the praise. How's the diplomatic situation? The Draxians. The Draxian government has officially denounced the extremists, Blake said. They're calling it an unsanctioned act of terrorism. There's been no impact on the alliance negotiations. Good, Tyler said, genuinely relieved. And the attackers? In custody. They'll face trial under interspecies law. Your testimony may be required, but that can wait until you're fully recovered. They talked for a while longer, Blake updating him on ship news and delivering messages from crew members. Dr. Sarah Morgan had apparently been organizing a welcome-back party. Even the captain had recorded a personal message, which Blake played on his tablet. As Blake prepared to leave, he hesitated. There's something else you should know, Grant. Earth Central has been in communication with Nelvari High Command. There's talk of a formal diplomatic position. For you. Tyler stared at him. Me? A diplomat? I clean toilets, Commander. Blake shrugged. You also single-handedly saved a major interspecies alliance by protecting the niece of the Nelvari king. Diplomacy is about relationships, Grant. You've established a rather significant one. After Blake left, Tyler sat in stunned silence. A diplomatic position? It seemed absurd. Yet as he thought about his conversations with Rollin, with the king, even with Mira, he realized they had been treating him not as a janitor, but as someone of importance. Someone with value beyond his ability to clean and maintain. The following day, Tyler was declared fit enough to leave the medical center. He was provided with quarters in the royal complex, modest by royal standards, but far more luxurious than anything he'd experienced before. His uniform had been replaced with clothing in the human style, but made from Nelvari fabrics, soft and comfortable against his still-healing skin. That evening, he was summoned to a meeting with King Ellerin and the Lord Regent. He was escorted to a private study rather than the formal throne room, suggesting this was not an official audience. The king greeted him warmly, inviting him to sit in one of the comfortable chairs arranged around a low table. The regent was already seated, a series of data tablets spread before him. Tyler Grant, the king began, I hope you are finding your accommodations satisfactory. More than satisfactory, Your Majesty, Tyler replied honestly. I'm grateful for your hospitality. The king nodded, seemingly pleased. I understand your ship's commander visited yesterday. Did he convey the interest Earth Central has expressed regarding your future? He mentioned something about a diplomatic position, Tyler said cautiously. Though I'm not sure I understand what that would entail. The regent spoke up. The relationship between Nelvar and Earth is at a crucial juncture, Tyler Grant. The medical exchange program is just the beginning of what could be a profound alliance. But alliances require trust, and trust requires connections. And I've established a connection, Tyler said slowly, beginning to understand. Precisely, the king confirmed. Moreover, you have demonstrated qualities that both our species value. Courage, selflessness, a willingness to protect the vulnerable regardless of species. These are powerful symbols, particularly in these times of interspecies tension. The regent tapped one of the tablets, and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed news headlines from across the galaxy, many featuring variations of the same story. Human hero saves Nelvari princess. Some included blurry images captured from the station's security feeds, showing Tyler standing against the Draxian attackers. Your actions have resonated beyond our two worlds, the regent said. Many species are watching how this unfolds. Tyler felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. What exactly would this position involve? The king leaned forward. You would serve as a special envoy between our worlds, not replacing the formal ambassadors, but working alongside them. Your unique perspective and the authenticity Commander Blake mentioned would be valuable assets. I'm not qualified, Tyler protested. I have no diplomatic training, no higher education in interspecies relations. You have something more valuable, the king countered. You have moral authority. You acted without hesitation to protect a child not of your species, at great personal risk. That speaks volumes about your character, and by extension, about humanity's potential as allies. The conversation continued for some time, the king and regent explaining the proposed role in more detail. Tyler listened, asked questions, and gradually came to see that they were serious. This wasn't a token position or a political stunt. They genuinely believed he could contribute to interspecies relations. As the meeting concluded, the king had one final question. Will you consider our offer, Tyler Grant? Tyler thought of his life aboard the Harmony, the endless routine of cleaning and maintenance, his invisibility among the crew. He thought of his failed military ambitions, of the photo frame beside his bed with images of opportunities never realized. Then he thought of Myra's face when she asked about Earth, of Roland's thoughtful questions about human culture, of the potential to be part of something truly meaningful. I will consider it, Your Majesty, he said. Thank you for the opportunity. The next day, a formal ceremony was held to recognize Tyler's actions. In the Grand Hall of the Royal Palace, before assembled Nelvari dignitaries and the crew of the Harmony, King Ellerin bestowed upon Tyler the Order of the Silver Star, one of Nelvar's highest honors for courage. As he knelt to receive the medallion, Tyler caught sight of Mira standing with her parents. The child gave him a small wave, which he returned with a smile. In that moment, he knew his decision was made. When the king asked him publicly if he would accept the position of special envoy, Tyler said yes, without hesitation. The hall erupted in applause, human and Nelvari alike. Later, at the reception following the ceremony, Dr. Sarah Morgan approached him, grinning broadly. Special Envoy Grant, she said, raising a glass in toast. Who would have thought it? Tyler laughed, the sound surprising even himself. Certainly not me. I'm still half convinced I'll wake up tomorrow back in my maintenance uniform. Sarah's expression became more serious. You know, I always thought there was more to you than just the janitor. I'm glad others are finally seeing it too. Thank you, Tyler said, genuinely touched. That means a lot. As the reception continued, Tyler found himself approached by various dignitaries, both Nelvari and human. Many wanted to hear his account of the marketplace incident firsthand. Others were interested in his thoughts on interspecies relations. Tyler answered as honestly as he could, gradually growing more comfortable in his new role. Near the end of the evening, as the crowd was beginning to thin, Mira appeared at his side. She was dressed formally for the occasion, looking every bit the princess she apparently was. Tyler, she said, will you be staying on Nelvar now? He nodded. For a while, at least. I'll be working with your father and other diplomats. Myra's ears perked up. Good. I still have many questions about Earth. And I can show you Nelvar. There are beautiful forests near the palace, with creatures you have never seen. I'd like that, Tyler said with a smile. And perhaps, Mira added, her voice taking on a more serious tone, you could teach me to be brave, like you. Tyler knelt down to her level, mindful of his still healing wounds. Mira, you already are brave. You stayed calm during a frightening situation. That's real courage. The child considered this. But I ran and hid. You stood and fought. Different situations call for different kinds of bravery, Tyler explained. Sometimes the brave thing is to run and find help. Sometimes it's to stand your ground. The important thing is to do what's right, even when it's scary. Mira nodded solemnly. I think I understand. Then, unexpectedly, she wrapped her arms around him in a hug. Thank you for saving me, Tyler. Tyler returned the embrace gently. You're welcome, Mira. As he watched the child return to her parents, Tyler reflected on the strange path his life had taken. From rejected military applicant to invisible janitor to diplomatic envoy, none of it was what he had planned. Yet somehow it felt right. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Tyler divided his time between diplomatic meetings, cultural orientation sessions, and recovery therapy for his injuries. He moved into permanent quarters in the diplomatic wing of the royal complex and began learning the basics of the Nelvari language. His universal translator was useful, but direct communication was always preferable in diplomatic settings. True to her word, Mira became his unofficial guide to Nelvari culture, showing him around the palace grounds and teaching him about local customs. In return, he told her stories about Earth and answered her endless questions about human society. One evening, about a month after the ceremony, Tyler received an unexpected communication from Earth Central Command. It was a personal message from the Secretary-General of the United Earth Government, commending his actions and officially confirming his appointment as special envoy to the Nelvari Confederation. Attached to the message was a file containing information about his family. His parents had been interviewed by Earth media about their son's heroics and had expressed their pride in his actions. His sister had apparently been inundated with messages from old classmates who remembered Tyler's brother from school. The final attachment was what moved Tyler the most. A formal letter rescinding his rejection from the Earth Defense Force, acknowledging that his actions had demonstrated the qualities they sought in their personnel. It was largely symbolic at this point. His new role made military service impossible, but the acknowledgement meant more to Tyler than he could express. That night, he stood on the balcony of his quarters, looking up at the unfamiliar stars of the Nelvari sky. Somewhere among them was Earth, and the life he had left behind. He didn't regret his choice. His new role gave him purpose in a way that cleaning the harmony never had. But there was a certain bittersweetness to the realization that his path had changed so completely because of a chance encounter in a marketplace. A soft knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Opening it, he found Rollins standing in the corridor. "Ambassador," Tyler greeted him. "Is everything all right?" "All is well," Rollins assured him. "I merely wish to speak with you before tomorrow's council meeting." Tyler invited him in, and they settled in the sitting area of his quarters. Rollins declined refreshment, getting straight to the point of his visit. "The council will be discussing the expansion of the medical exchange program tomorrow," he said. "There are some who have concerns about moving too quickly." Tyler nodded. This wasn't surprising. Conservative elements existed in every government. "They worry about cultural contamination," he guessed. "Among other things," Rollins confirmed. "There is a faction that believes we should maintain our traditional isolation, despite the benefits alliance might bring. They see what happened to Mira as evidence that engagement with other species brings danger. The actions of a few extremists shouldn't define interspecies relations," Tyler said. "I agree," Rollins said. "And your presence helps make that case. The fact that a human risked his life for a Nelvari child counters their narrative rather effectively." Tyler shifted uncomfortably. "I don't want to be used as a political symbol." Rollins' ears flicked, an expression of understanding. "Nor would I ask that of you. I merely suggest that your authentic perspective, your story, has power. The council would benefit from hearing it directly from you." After considering this, Tyler nodded. "I'll speak if called upon. Honestly, as always." "That is all I ask," Rollins said, rising to leave. He paused at the door. "Tyler, I have not yet properly thanked you for what you did. Not as an ambassador or as the king's brother, but as a father. You saved my daughter's life, and for that, my family will be eternally grateful." The depth of emotion in Rollins' voice touched Tyler. "She's a remarkable child," he said simply. "I'm glad I was there." After Rollins left, Tyler returned to the balcony. His thoughts turned to the council meeting tomorrow and what he might say. He wasn't a polished diplomat or a skilled orator. But perhaps that didn't matter. Perhaps what the council needed to hear wasn't carefully crafted rhetoric, but simple truth, that when faced with a child in danger, species had been irrelevant. Only the need to protect had mattered. In that moment of clarity, Tyler understood why he had been chosen for this role. Not despite his lack of diplomatic experience, but because of it. His actions had been uncolored by political calculation or diplomatic protocol. They had been purely human, and in being so, had revealed the potential for genuine connection across species boundaries. The council meeting the next day was held in a grand chamber within the royal palace. Tyler, dressed in his formal envoy attire, sat beside the Earth ambassador, a career diplomat named Elena Vasquez who had arrived on Nelvar Prime a week after the incident. She had been supportive of Tyler's unusual appointment, recognizing the unique connection he had established with the royal family. As Rollins had predicted, the discussion became heated when the medical exchange program expansion came up for debate. A Nelvari counselor named Marith led the opposition, his dark orange fur bristling as he spoke. "We rush headlong into deeper alliance when we have barely begun to understand these humans," he argued. "The incident in the marketplace demonstrates the dangers of too much engagement with the wider galaxy." The child of the royal family was endangered. King Ellerin, presiding over the council from his elevated seat, glanced at Tyler. "Special Envoy Grant, would you care to address the council on this matter?" Tyler stood, feeling the eyes of every counselor upon him. "Honored counselors," he began, "I understand your concerns for the safety of your people. Caution is wise when forming new relationships, whether between individuals or species." He paused, gathering his thoughts. The incident in the marketplace was indeed frightening and dangerous, but I would suggest it demonstrates not the failure of interspecies relations, but their promise. The attackers were a small group of extremists whose views are rejected by their own government. They acted out of fear of change, fear of connection, fear of a future different from the past. Several counselors nodded, and Tyler continued with growing confidence. "In contrast, what I experienced after the incident was remarkable. I was brought to your world, healed by your physicians, welcomed into your society. I, a simple maintenance worker with no special status, was treated with dignity and kindness." He looked directly at Counselor Merith. "You speak of the dangers of engagement. I have seen its benefits firsthand. The medical exchange program alone has the potential to save countless lives on both our worlds. Would you deny your people those benefits out of fear?" Merith's face settled slightly. "It is not merely fear, human. It is concern for the preservation of our ways, our values." "With respect, Counselor," Tyler responded, "cultures aren't preserved by isolation but by confidence in their strength and adaptability. The Nelvari I have met are proud of their heritage while being curious about others. That balance seems worthy of preservation." The debate continued for some time, with other counselors joining in. Tyler spoke when addressed, but otherwise listened carefully. By the session's end, a compromise had been reached. The medical exchange would expand, but with additional safeguards and cultural orientation programs for all participants. As the council dispersed, Ambassador Vasquez approached Tyler. "Nice work in there," she said quietly. "You have a natural diplomatic instinct, Grant." Tyler smiled ruefully. "Or I just speak my mind without the filter of years of diplomatic training." "Sometimes that's exactly what's needed," she replied. "Authenticity can be more persuasive than polish." In the months that followed, Tyler settled into his role as special envoy. He worked closely with both the Earth diplomatic team and the Nelvari royal court, helping to bridge cultural gaps and facilitate understanding. His unique position, neither a traditional diplomat nor a Nelvari expert, but someone with a personal connection to both worlds, proved valuable in numerous negotiations. The medical exchange program flourished, with Nelvari physicians traveling to Earth and human medical researchers coming to Nelvar Prime. The first major breakthrough came 6 months after Tyler's appointment. A collaborative team developed a treatment for a degenerative nerve condition that affected both species. The success was celebrated on both worlds, with Tyler featured prominently in the announcements. On a personal level, his relationship with Mira and her family deepened. He became something of an honorary uncle to the child, teaching her about human customs while learning from her about Nelvari traditions. When Mira enrolled in the Royal Academy, she proudly told her classmates that her favorite subject was Earth Studies, a curriculum that Tyler occasionally contributed to. A year after the marketplace incident, Tyler returned to Earth for the first time, accompanying King Ellerin on a state visit. The reception was grander than he could have imagined, crowds lining the streets of New Geneva, news coverage across the planet, his parents invited as honored guests to the formal state dinner. His mother cried when she saw him, running her hands over his face as if to confirm he was really there. "My boy," she kept saying. "My brave boy." His father, more reserved but equally emotional, simply embraced him tightly. "Proud of you, son," he whispered. "Always knew you were meant for something special." The visit was a diplomatic triumph, resulting in expanded cooperation between Earth and Nelvar across multiple domains. Trade agreements were signed, cultural exchange programs established, and a joint space exploration initiative announced. Throughout it all, Tyler maintained the same straightforward approach that had characterized his initial council appearance. He spoke honestly about both the challenges and opportunities of interspecies relations, drawing on his unique perspective as someone who had crossed cultural boundaries in the most dramatic way possible. On the final night of the Earth visit, a private dinner was held for the diplomatic teams. After the meal, King Ellerin called for attention and raised his glass. "To Tyler Grant," he said, "who began as one world's maintenance worker and became another world's hero. who showed us all that courage and compassion transcend species. Tyler accepted the toast with a mix of embarrassment and pride. Later, as the gathering broke into smaller conversations, he found himself standing with Ambassador Vasquez and Roland near a large window overlooking the Earth-Nelver Memorial Garden, a new addition to the diplomatic complex featuring plants from both worlds. "Did you ever imagine this is where you'd end up?" Vasquez asked. "When you were cleaning floors on the Harmony?" Tyler shook his head. "Never. I thought I'd missed my chance to make a difference when I failed the military medical exam." Roland made a soft sound, the Nelvari equivalent of a thoughtful hum. "Perhaps the universe had a different path in mind for you, one that required you to be precisely where you were that day in the marketplace." "I don't know about that," Tyler said, "but I'm grateful for how things turned out. Even the 8 blade wounds." He smiled ruefully, touching his side where the deepest scar remained. "The Nelvari have a saying," Roland offered. "The straightest path is rarely the most meaningful." Your journey has certainly proven that true. As they continued talking, Tyler noticed Mira across the room, engaged in animated conversation with his sister. The two had hit it off immediately, bonding over their shared experience of having brothers suddenly thrust into the spotlight. Watching them, Tyler felt a sense of profound satisfaction. This was what it was all about, not grand diplomatic gestures or formal agreements, but real connections between individuals across the divide of species. Later that night, as he prepared for bed in his guest quarters, Tyler found himself thinking about the maintenance worker he had been, the invisible man who cleaned floors and fixed plumbing, the rejected applicant who had believed his chance to matter had passed him by. If he could speak to that Tyler now, what would he say? Perhaps simply this: that purpose often finds us in unexpected moments. That the measure of a life isn't in titles or recognition, but in the choices made when it matters most. And that sometimes, standing between danger and the vulnerable is exactly where you're meant to be, even if you don't know it until you're bleeding from 8 blade wounds on a station floor far from home. 2 years to the day after the marketplace incident, a statue was unveiled in the central plaza of Nexus Station. It depicted a human figure standing protectively before a Nelvari child, facing unseen danger with determination. The plaque read simply, "For Tyler Grant of Earth, who showed us that courage knows no species." Tyler, standing beside Mira at the unveiling ceremony, leaned down to whisper in her ear. "A bit dramatic, don't you think?" Mira, now 2 years older and significantly taller, though still recognizably the child he had protected, smiled up at him. "Not at all," she replied with the certainty of youth. "You're a hero, Tyler. Heroes get statues." Tyler shook his head, but he was smiling too. "I'm just a guy who did what needed doing. Nothing special about that." "That," said Mira with surprising wisdom, "is exactly what makes it special." As applause filled the plaza, Tyler gazed at the statue, not with pride, but with humility. It wasn't really about him, he knew. It was about the possibility the moment had represented. The proof that when it mattered, differences of species, of culture, of biology could fade away. That protection of the innocent could transcend all boundaries. That, he thought, was a legacy worth having. Not bad for a janitor who had once believed he had nothing significant to offer the universe. The ceremony concluded with speeches from dignitaries of multiple species, each emphasizing the incident as a turning point in interspecies relations. The Draxian ambassador spoke last, formally reiterating his government's commitment to peaceful cooperation and explicitly rejecting the extremism that had led to the attack. Afterward, as the crowd dispersed, Tyler found himself approached by a young human in a maintenance uniform. The name badge read, Ryan Mitchell. "Sir," the young man said nervously, "I just wanted to say, well, you're an inspiration to all of us maintenance workers." Tyler smiled warmly. "Thank you, Ryan. But remember, the uniform doesn't define what you're capable of. It never did." As Ryan walked away, visibly uplifted by the brief encounter, Roland appeared at Tyler's side. "A wise sentiment," the ambassador observed. "One that applies across species boundaries as well." "I've learned a thing or two in the past couple of years," Tyler replied with a grin. "Indeed you have," Roland agreed. "And taught quite a few things as well." They watched as Mira rejoined them, chattering excitedly about the statue and the speeches. Tyler felt a surge of affection for the child who had unwittingly changed the course of his life, and whom he had protected without a second thought. Some choices, he reflected, define us more than any title or position ever could. The choice he had made that day in the marketplace, to stand between a child and danger, had revealed something essential about himself that no military rejection or menial job could diminish. And if taking 8 blades for an alien child had led him here, to meaningful work, to cherished relationships, to a sense of purpose he had once thought forever beyond his reach, then every scar was more than worth it. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.